All right, we're going to go over making our first Python OpenAI API call, and we're going to be following this quick start tutorial. So when we click into it, it shows us we're not going to install Python. I'm going to assume you already have Python installed. We're also going to skip using a virtual environment, but we will need to install the OpenAI Python library. Okay, so we're going to go over to our code editor. Here I'm using VS Code. And what I will do is I will type in pip install upgrade OpenAI. Okay, now that that's installed, go ahead and close out of this. And we're going to create two files. One we're going to call creds.json, and this is where our API secret will live in our organization ID. And then OpenAI test.py is where our script will live. Okay, so heading on back to the documentation, we're actually going to go over to our account. And on the left side here, we're going to look for API keys, and we're going to create a new secret key. So for this one, I'm just going to call it call, create secret. There's my secret. I'm going to copy that, going to come over to our creds.json. We're going to paste that in. And next up, we're going to need our organization ID. All right, and to find our organization ID, we'll go over to settings, and then you'll see it right here, organization ID. So we'll go ahead and copy that over, and we will paste it under organization, and then we'll save this file, and now we can close out of that file. All right, so we're going to go back to this tutorial, and we're going to kind of go through it here. And here is the example that we're going to go over. We're going to make a few modifications, but this is generally what we will go over. So on back to the code editor. Okay, so now in the code editor, we've installed the OpenAI library. So we're going to go ahead and import it. So from OpenAI, import OpenAI. And we're also going to import JSON to import our credentials. And we're going to create a variable here. We're going to call it creds. And we're just going to put in our creds.json. And then we're going to open those with open creds as f creds equals json.load f. And so that will allow us to access our credentials. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build a client. So we're going to go ahead and type in client equals OpenAI. And then our API key equals creds. And then this is going to be our secret. And then organization equals, and this will also be creds, organization. And that's all you need to do to create that client. Next, we're going to go ahead and follow the example. So we're going to create a variable called a completion equals client.chat.completions.create. Okay, and here we're first going to define what model we're going to use. And for this example, since we're following the same example, we're going to use the GPT 3.5 Turbo. But you can change this to a later version. For right now, what we are testing is being able to make our first call, not necessarily building anything custom quite yet. And next up is we will create the messages. So messages equals, and this is going to be a list, and the list will contain a dictionary. And so first we're going to create a role, right? So role is system. And this is where we are defining kind of the personality to the ChatGPT, where we give it our instructions. We tell it who it is. We're not asking a question. We're kind of saying, hey, you're an expert in this area, and this is how you will address any questions that you get asked, right? So go ahead and continue. We'll create content. And we'll stick to the example in the ChatGPT and the OpenAI. So you are a poetic assistant skilled in explaining complex programming concepts with creative flair. Whoops. Comma, get the comma. And so that's helping define who the system is. Go ahead and close that out so you can see it better. So that's defining who the system is. We're giving it instructions, telling it there are poetic assistants that explains code. Okay, next up, we're going to go ahead and create another role. And this time it's the user, so this will be the one asking the question. And then we have to give it the content or the question that is being asked. And again, following the same example, compose a poem that explains the concept of recursion in programming. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say print completion dot choices, and we want to get back the first message that we get back. And then the message content. And now we're going to run this and we should get a response back if everything worked well. So run Python file in terminal. And this usually takes a moment the first time you make this call. And so there it is. And now you've made your first OpenAI call. And now we can begin to build more complex custom applications using the OpenAI API.